Hi there YouTube, welcome back to another army showcase video, and today I'm going to basically bring you another one of my SAGA armies, and they're basically going to be the Anglo-Saxons. So let's get going with the Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons are obviously they fight quite differently from the Vikings, and they tend to like the larger units. So you'll see that as my army unfolds, you see that I have a lot more sort of foot infantry as opposed to Hearthguard. So let's get going, and let's get going with the Warlord, as I did yesterday with my Vikings. So this is the Anglo-Saxon Warlord that comes in the starter box set, and you can see as far as a figure goes, he's pretty kind of basic really. But you can see he's got given him his gold helmet, and he's got a nice sword, and he's basically dressed in the best quality clothing to show his status, and he came out really well. The thing that I found with painting medieval miniatures, because I've never really done medieval miniatures before I started Saga, was that the colour. You just do a little bit of research into the colours that were available at that sort of period, and just build yourself up a library of colours, and then just mix and match with those colours to create different types of the different looks that you need to sort of create to have a uniformed army. I love the way this shield came out. It's such a simple design, and it came out really quite cool. And you can see again I've put the sort of battle damage on it. I used one of the cutting discs of a Dremel to kind of groove in those sort of battle damage, and I think it came out really quite cool. Like I say, the figure itself is not super amazing, but the way he came out is really quite cool, and I do actually quite like him. So that's the Anglo-Saxon Warlord. Next up we have a warrior priest. Quite a cool looking figure. The name of this particular miniature company has eluded me, but if you if you sort of look around, I'm sure you can find out where he's from. It's quite a sort of a popular English miniatures company. Not one of the big ones, one of the sort of more independent ones. But yeah, nice figure, and he came out really quite cool. I was a little bit worried about painting him because obviously it's just sort of a brownishy type colour of his sort of clothing. But I think, like I say, I think he came out really quite cool in the end, and it's quite a cool figure. I've never actually used this guy in combat yet. I've only played I think I've played 6-point battles with my Anglo-Saxons, but I've never actually used this guy yet. He's quite cool. They're quite sort of powerful characters. The way that the point system works for Saga is that most things, everything, it costs a point. Whether it be a unit of 12 levy or a single character figure like this. And of course your Warlord is always free, so he doesn't actually cost anything. But if you're playing a larger game and you want to add a second Warlord, then that would cost you 1 point as well. So this is, like I say, a character figure, and he's kind of got some rules that kind of give him some of the. There's 3 different types of priests that you can have in your army, and some are like this warrior priest is a little bit more fighty, but there's 2 other types that can they add to your orders dice. They can give you some special abilities that some of which your Warlord has. So yeah, quite cool, and very nice miniature. I'm a little disappointed that I've forgotten the name of the miniatures company, because it really is quite a nice miniature. That is the warrior priest. Next up, we'll go into the Hearthguard. The Hearthguard are made up out of... I've got 3 units of Hearthguard in my Anglo-Saxon army, and this is the first unit. And these guys are made up out of the Hearthguard that came in the original starter set, and some Gripping Beast plastics, Saxon Thanes, which are basically the Hearthguard. And this guy is kind of like the leader of the unit, and I really like the way he turned out this one, which is why I decided to make him the leader. You can see that the Thanes have got their the chainmail. That's my cat meowing. What's the matter? Eh? Again, with this sort of the pretty simple shield design, but it looks pretty cool. And of course, a sword scabbard, which I've modified to remove the sword from. And I think he came out really quite cool. Kind of looks a little bit like... no, not really. I was going to say he looks a little bit like Sean Bean, but he doesn't. So that's the leader. And then we have 2 more of plastic Saxon Thane miniatures, so you can see they can get quite a nice selection of poses from these guys. Again, the same sort of body, but obviously with a spear arm and a shield there, with some battle damage. And again, this time a sword and the scabbard on his belt. And of course a different head. Quite cool, quite a mean looking guy. And the next one, this is again a one of the plastic Saxon Thanes. You can see it's the same sort of body, and this time he's been given a excuse me, a helmeted head, and again a sort of a pretty simplistic shield design, but it does the job. So yeah, that's the first unit of Hearthguard, and he's got the sword, because the Hearthguard are always going to be well equipped. And the final guy is actually one of the metal Hearthguard, which actually split up between my my unit Hearthguard. So this is actually one of the Gripping Beast ones that came in the starter set. The 4-point starter set that you get for the Anglo-Saxons, I believe, has 2 units of warriors, 1 unit of levy, and 1 unit of Hearthguard, and of course the warlord. So this is like a metal miniature. He's got a cast on shield, and the thing about the Gripping Beast miniatures is that they generally have separate weapons, so you have to stick the weapons into their hands, and some of the sets you have to actually drill the hands out, which is a little annoying. Or you have to, cut flash out of the inside of the hands and do a little bit of modification to get the weapons to fit in the hands properly. Which is a little annoying, but it's not the end of the world. So yeah, this is the one of the metal Hearthguard, like I said. Quite cool, nice position. So that is the first unit of Hearthguard. Get them out of the way. Okay, let's go for the second unit now. And again, this guy has 1 metal miniature from the metal Hearthguard. So let's get going. And we've got again a pretty generic pose with the same sort of Saxon Thane body. My Anglo-Saxons are actually made up out of a lot of Gripping Beast plastic miniatures, because at this particular point when I was doing these guys, I was not only looking at budget, but I was also looking for I hadn't really looked around at other figure companies to find out that they actually did some of the sort of decent Anglo-Saxon figures. But these guys are great for Hearthguard. They do make good Hearthguard, and because I have got such a small number of them, The fact that they use the same body is kind of really irrelevant, really. Just means that they're uniformly issued the same chainmail. So again, that sort of simple cross-style shield to give them a little bit of uniformity. And here we have another one. And third one. This guy's got a very simple shield design with nothing on it. Again, I've made sure they've all got their sword scabbards and that they've all had the swords cut out. I'd say that the only thing that I didn't like about the plastic box sets, which is why I'd actually recommend that people don't rely on them, is the fact that they are literally all the same miniature. And I think one of the cool things about Saga is that because they're quite small warbands, you could actually you could really spend some time searching around and finding packs of characterful figures, and you could build yourself up a really nice looking army. This is one of the metal Hearthguard. I mean, the sort of the basic troops aren't generally nothing super special, but they are nice miniatures. This guy's got a really beaten up shield. It's obviously been doing a lot of fighting, and you can see that with my Anglo-Saxons they've got a lot of some sort of simple designs on the sort of bottom of their undershirts. So that is the second unit of Hearthguard, and now the final unit of Hearthguard for my Anglo-Saxons, because like I say, these guys have only got 3 units of Hearthguard. These guys have actually got 2 metal miniatures from the Hearthguard in, and we'll start off with the plastics again. 2 plastic Saxon Thanes, these guys. Now this particular guy has actually lost his sword. I'll have to stick that back on. But you can see that again he's using that same Saxon Thane plastic body. This guy's getting ready to throw his spear, which is why it's going to different of his sword. But he's like I say, it's kind of generic sort of figure, but it looks nice. It's a nice spear throwing pose there. And one of the sort of big things a lot of people might complain about Saga miniatures is the spear holding guys. The spears, where you actually stick the spears on, they're kind of made out of that sort of the same sort of soft metal as the actual figures themselves, and therefore, if you're not careful, you can bend and break the spears. But generally, you tend to just knock them out of their hands, and it is annoying. This particular guy has got a cast shield again, and he's pretty generic. This guy, I believe he's even got the same body pose as the one that I showed you previously. Yeah, there you go. Slightly different pose, but very, very similar. So that is the that's the third one. I've got two more to get to show you. This is the third one, and he's quite cool. He's got his hand axe, and quite like this miniature. It's quite cool. And to add to that sort of theme, I had added the leader of the unit with also a hand axe. So this guy is the named leader. Like I say, there's no special rules for leaders. Leaders is something that I just do myself to give my army a little bit of sort of characterfulness. And this guy, I quite like this guy. It's with the old hand axe. It's quite cool. He's got like a rock on his base. He's got a sword. He's got an extra long sword on his belt there. He's got a nice sort of stylized helmet and a different design on his shield to make him stand out. So that is my Hearthguard complete, and like I say, there's 3 units of Hearthguard. So that's those guys. My Hearthguard of my Saxons aren't quite as characterful and special as my Viking ones. But like I say, my Anglo-Saxons were the first army that decided to increase the size to 10 points. So let's get going. We'll start with the levy again. The Anglo-Saxons, the way they fight is with big units. I actually have 3 units of levy for these guys, and the first unit of levy are actually slingers. You can have archers in your Anglo-Saxons, but because I'd done the Viking archers, I didn't really want to do archers again, so I decided to get another plastic box set from Gripping Beast. These guys are Dark Age warriors, I believe, and the good thing about this particular group was that they did have slinger options available. So this was the first unit that I built out of them, and they basically use the full set of body sculpts that you get on the sprue. So there's actually many duplicates of the different types of the same type of body on here. But you can see that just because of the sort of the time period, because they're sort of medieval, and they, you basically paint them all up in different colours. They actually look really quite cool when they're done, and I do really like these guys. I think they came out really quite cool. There's lots of, even though they use the same faces and the same sort of body types, they've all kind of got their own sort of personalities because of the way and the colours that you choose to paint them in. So you can see that we've got some great looking guys in this unit of slingers. All sort of simple colours, greys, browns, khakis, creams. The odd guy with a sort of a turquoisey colour, and this particular sort of this kind of lime green. It's not lime. I don't know how you'd actually explain it. It's kind of like a very light mint green. There's actually a colour called Italian Tank Crew Highlight from Vallejo Aces, Panzer Aces line. It's a very cool colour. I've used it quite a few times in my Anglo-Saxons. So that is the unit of do a long shot of them, of the ranged unit. They only got one ranged unit, similar to my Vikings. And these, like I say, slingers. So they're kind of cool. And again, I added the actual base for them a lot later. Like we're talking literally a month or 2 ago. And I think it came out really cool. And I really do like the, I actually decided to base all my large units on these bases now. And I will do so in the future when I create another army. So up next we have the second unit of levy. Now these last 2 levy units are levy warriors, because they get the choice of ranged or spear armed. And we've got 2 units of warrior levies. So let's just get them out. And I've just knocked one off his base. There we go. Now let's start with this one. This one is made up out of, it's got that same company that I got the Vikings from yesterday, War Games Foundry. I found out that they were called. They actually do some quite cool units of, not as many as Vikings, but they do a few packs of Anglo-Saxons, and you can see mixed in with a mixture of the metal Gripping Beast starter set levy, plastic Dark Age Warrior figures from the plastic box set, and some figures from this guy in particular, that War Games Foundry pack of levies that I had, are all kind of mixed together to make a kind of unique unit, and I think they look pretty cool. You can see that the levy are basically just armed with nothing more than a sword, a spear, and the occasional guy might have a dagger, but they certainly have no swords, and you might get the odd. I think there's one particular guy in my second unit that is armed with a kind of a slightly different hand-to-hand weapon, but he is basically kind of designed to be the unit leader, so it doesn't really make too much difference. But these guys are a generic spear-armed unit of levy, and you can see that they've got a little standard bearer there with his little sort of sheep motif on, which I really quite like. That particular flag. It came in the box, and this particular one I think I handmade. The one that came in the box I used on the second unit. But the good thing about levy aren't particularly that amazing in sort of fighting stats, but the Anglo-Saxons, like I said, are kind of the way that they're designed to fight is they benefit from having large units, so their levy can actually be a little bit better than your average levy unit, which is why I have two of them in my Anglo-Saxons. So that's the first unit of. There's another one of those character figures, as I call them, from War Games Foundry. Really quite cool. And I believe that guy there is one of the plastic guys, and these guys have a lot of the metal ones, like all these ones at the corner here, those three, these two, and him, guy at the front here holding the standard, and these two here are all from the Gripping Beast starter set. So that's those. And on to the second unit of levy. Here we go. So this is my second unit, and again we've got that same sort of style flag. And these guys have got a lot more of the what I call the War Games Foundry character-esque type figures in. They've got these sort of hats on. And this guy here is the guy I was telling you about, which kind of has the different weapon. And this guy is really quite cool. I'll take him off the off his stand and show you. He's got a really grumpy looking peasant-y face. He's got this giant rock tied to a stick basically as a weapon. And I don't think he's even got a dagger, this guy. No, he hasn't. It's literally his only weapon. And this guy, I kind of decided to make him the leader of this particular band of motley peasants that have picked up arms to fight for their noble. And he makes quite a cool sort of leader figure to lead this motley band. And I'll take you back in and give you sort of a closer look at them. You can see that they've all again got their own different looks, and I've tried to give them all many different types of different shield, because there's basically no uniformity in levy really. They all kind of just dress how they want, and if they're if they probably have to save up, they probably have to buy their own shields and spears, so they've all got various types of designs on, of which none are particularly that complicated. So that is the second levy unit. So let's just put the slingers away as well. Okay, next up, warriors. So these guys, the Anglo-Saxons, are actually quite warrior heavy. I kind of designed them to be. So let's see if I can get them out. They actually have an astounding 4 units of warriors. Get them all out. Can't quite grab the last 2 stands. Come on. There we go. There's one. And there's 2. So we'll start with these. Ones here. So this is a unit of warriors, and like the Vikings, again, a warrior unit is a unit of 8, and like all things in Saga, they cost 1 point. So if you wanted to make a 4-point army with all warriors, you'd have your warlord because he's free, and you'd have your 4 stands of warriors to make 4 points. So you can see this unit has got the standard, and it's a little bit of a bent pole there, and this guy at the front here is the lesser noble leader. And again, like the same sort of rules go, that the generally your warriors are armed with spears or hand weapons, and you might get the occasional one with a little bit of chainmail or a helmet, and you might get the odd one with perhaps a sword, but generally, again, they're just kind of better off and perhaps slightly more trained farmers and peasants. And these particular guys are made up out of the starter set warriors with a couple of plasticky guys thrown in. I believe this unit might only have a couple of plastic guys in. And again, you can see that again they've all got their own different looks and their own different colours. There's a guy with a sword, like. So yeah, that's the first unit of warriors. On to the second unit. These guys are all but 2 made out of the plastic Dark Age warriors. So this is one of my not so particularly special units. I call it a filler unit. But again, they're all, they've all got their own unique looks. There's a couple of guys there that have, these 3 guys here that have got this, or 4 guys in fact, they've got this particular type of tunic with a yellow piping down the bottom, just to kind of add a little bit of uniformity, perhaps like the noble who's in command of them decided to buy his own unit of warriors some uniformed sort of overtops to so that they can be identified on the battlefield as his men. But like I say, this is a pretty generic base of all sort of the gripping piece plastic guys. Onto the third unit of warriors now. These guys are a mixture of the Wargames Foundry character full figures, as I call them, and the Gripping Beast starter set guys. And you can see there's some quite cool character-y type figures in here. There's no real sort of leader figure in these units. I tend to say that 2 units of warriors would make up a full unit of warriors, and obviously the first unit was led by the guy in the blue and green cape, and this is the sort of the second unit, of which the leader is in the second group of warriors, even though they're actually individual units themselves. But yeah, there's some quite cool looking characters in there. Some quite interesting shield designs, lots of battle damage. Particularly like the way that this particular shield came out. It's quite a strange colour. And there's actually a second guy with a similar sort of shield colour over there. So that is the second unit of warriors. And now the final unit of warriors and the final unit of the Anglo-Saxons. We have this unit here. And the cool thing about this particular unit is that I decided to add one of my completely fictional and made up sort of backstories of a daughter of a noble who has did a brave deed and showed that she could fight, and for whatever reason they've decided to give a command of this unit of warriors. And this particular figure actually came from one of the Valkyrie sets that I had for my Vikings, and she originally had wings and a helmet as well, so I cut those off. And this particular figure I really do like. I think she's quite cool, and I quite like the idea of her leading the Anglo-Saxons. And she's got this quite ornate spear and a sword and some chainmail and a helm, which is befitting for a sort of a leader of a unit. And then she's got her own standard, and this stand again is made up out of a combination of all 3. So we've got some starter set Gripping Beast guys on there, and we've got one plastic guy there who's holding the standard, and a couple of the characterful figures from Wargames Foundry at the back there, and another one there at the front. But yeah, I really do like the way that this particular figure came out, and I particularly like the way her shield came out, and of course she came out really, really cool. Let's just give you a quick spin of her, take her off her base. Yeah, and that is end of my Anglo-Saxons, and like I say, they're pretty cool. I'm proud of them. I like them. It's a shame that I didn't find out. I think it was like literally I was basically doing my warrior units last, and it was kind of during that sort of period when I found out about the. I decided to go exploring on the Wargames Foundry site and find the fact that they did actually do Anglo-Saxon figures. That it was kind of a little bit too late, so I decided to, in the end, actually swap out some of my painted warriors and replace them with the actual ones from Wargames Foundry, and I think that they came out really cool. And I'm very, like I say, I'm quite proud of them. I think they came out looking really good. So let's put those guys back without knocking any spears off. That of course is the bane of Saga, is trying to put things back without knocking spears out of people's hands. There we go. I forgot to mention that the Wargames Foundry guys also have separate weapons, but they came with like little brass spears, which is quite cool. So, I hope you enjoyed that army. I am going to do, I have one final painted up Saga army, which are the Irish, and I'll do a video on those guys next. And I have my next two Saga armies already collected up, and I'll do a little video on those two guys to show you the sort of what you're talking about when you want to sort of the amount of figures that you'd need to build up because both of those particular armies built up to 10 points. So I'll show you the entirety of what a 10-point army looks when it's still in its box. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it if you liked it, and if you're not subscribed, think about it. I mean, I don't produce videos that often. I'm kind of in a little groove at the moment, but it just basically drops you a little email or something on your actual YouTube page and tells you that I'm basically releasing a new video. So if you want to be informed about when I do release new videos, that's a good way of doing it. So till next time, I'll catch you later.